briefing. It's Wednesday, June 24th, 2026. Hope you're doing well out there. Lots to get to today. We've got commentary from Trump, from Besant. We've got politics going on internationally that's quite interesting. We've got some earnings updates. We will jump right into it. Ben, Tom, how we doing?
Feeling good, feeling strong.
Love it. Love it. Oil just plummeting. I just left the pump, boys.
Who are the pump boys?
And
now, what are you doing with them at this hour?
the pump boys still pricey at the pump, not coming down as fast as I'd like to, and I know Trump agrees.
Yeah, he says, and so I mean, oil's come down from over $100 to low 70s now. Even Brent's below 75. But Trump did come out with a truth at midnight this morning. He says the big oil companies are not dropping their price at the pump commensurate with the sharply lower prices they are paying for oil. Those prices are dropping like a rock. In other words, customers are being gouged. I have instructed the DOJ to immediately start looking into this. Gasoline prices better start going down a lot faster than what I'm seeing, President DJT.
Well, it's gonna take time because the oil that they're selling right now, they bought it at a higher price because it's not like they bought it and it instantly
This
becomes
morning.
gasoline.
Yeah. The gasoline I filled the truck up with today was not acquired post-resolution.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is it takes time with any of these things. But, I mean, it's going to happen. It's going to happen quickly, too, because the fall happened pretty quickly as well. I mean, it happened over 2 weeks. We went from, 95 to 71.
Mm-hmm.
We got to fill up that SPR. That's what we need to be focusing on is actually getting oil prices up as a function of refilling the strategic petroleum reserve.
Oil prices have come down a bit faster than I anticipated, but I mean, in part, that's the result of all those tankers that were laden with oil are now all coming to market at once. And this is what we were saying prior to this, that it's just going to create more volatility as all those tankers come to market at the same time. And we could really see oil drop even below where we initially were before the before the hostilities broke out, but that doesn't mean they're going to stay there.
Yeah, I think the volatility will cut both ways on this. I don't think we're going to straight line down. We haven't seen the lowest price. We also may see some fluctuations upward at some point as well, just as things kind of reset and restabilize and look for a bit of an equilibrium there. But Trump's all over it. Besant, Tom, quite confident that inflation's coming down.
I mean, he should be. I mean, almost all of the inflation can be attributed to energy and housing. And you could argue even too, I mean, there's actually maybe an argument that inflation may be a little bit stickier on the other stuff now that because I mean, higher oil prices suck up demand for everything else. People start trading down on every other item and say, hey, I've got to pay, especially if they're driving a lot, an extra couple $100 a month in gas. I'm going to flow that towards the gas and away from other stuff. And you could see actually almost a broadening out of inflation to other things while energy comes out. But I still don't think it's going to be to the tune of much higher than 3, if not 2.5%.
Yeah, and I'm curious why we have not seen Trump talking about gasoline prices coming down, not commensurate with the fall in oil prices. I would also say interest rates not coming down commensurate with the fall in oil prices. And I was thinking a lot about this over the last, more than 24 hours, kind of like 4 or 5 days. And the only thing that I can think of right now is that it's kind of supply and demand. What does an interest rate represent that's not governed by the Federal Reserve? It represents the demand and supply balance of money. And so right now there's a lot of demand for money. And so the price of money is high. And I think that it's an interesting thing to think about from that perspective. But even if you look at the SpaceX bond offering yesterday, other companies with bond offerings, the sovereign debt situation, both here and in Europe, and there's a lot of debt coming to market and a lot of equity coming to market as well. And I wonder if that's just increasing the price of money, the value of money, and therefore increasing interest rates as well.
Yeah, I think there's almost a systemic stink on bonds right now. And I think the private credit piece is part of it. People are seeing stories where companies are borrowing a lot of money. Suddenly they can't pay it back. Nobody wants to hold that. And so you've got all these people who are trying to exit the diciest area, while simultaneously the biggest, cleanest companies have too much debt and don't want to issue more. The government certainly is not trying to issue more debt. And people just have this feeling that like, well, I'm going to get burned. And everybody in social or the media space and financial news is like, buying bonds here is a really bad idea. Yeah. And if anything, we've talked about the Strategic Petroleum Reserve and the Strategic Income Reserve, this is a great opportunity. I mean, we've been buying a lot of 2-year treasuries, 5-year treasuries. I mean, you're basically locking in at 4+. A lot of the corporates are 5+. A lot of the mortgages are the mid 5s. And those things are all very clean. And this is not private credit. We're not dealing in, unrated, mezzanine paper. We're dealing in, oftentimes single, double, and AAA securities that are just getting traded off as a function of really vibes. And there's been no new data, hard data, that people always glom onto about what inflation's actually doing. And if you get 3 straight months of inflation is rising, then no one's going to be like, actually, it's going to fall majorly next. I need to get in on these bonds. And everyone continues to rally we're going to get 6% inflation banner, despite the fact that the data would suggest that is the opposite of what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think that sometimes people get so caught up in, hey, what do I buy? Do I buy bonds? Do I buy equities? Do I buy? And with fixed incomes, especially, look at yourself not as a buyer, but as a lender, because that's ultimately what you are. And essentially right now you have a bunch of companies. I mean, ByteDance is having a $20 billion bond offering. You have a bunch of companies that are begging for your money. And so if you have money that you can lend out, and that you can do it at very favorable rates because they really, really want your cash, and so that they can invest. And that's what buying a bond is right now, is that there are a lot of these big companies who are in need of capital. And if you have capital, that you can basically lend that out and get a really nice coupon for a very long time.
Yeah. And I think that it's also not particularly sexy right now. I mean, you have SpaceX IPO, you have AI companies, you've got these chip companies that are up 60, 70% until yesterday, up in a month. People are just trying to be like, man, people focus on the stock market like, I'm going to get rich quick, because that's what's happened to a lot of people in a lot of different ways over the last 5 years since 2022. And the idea that I have a positive expected return for a decade of 2/3 of the historic return of the S&P 500 if I buy a 550 bond.
Sounds boring.
Yeah, it sounds like, oh, that's not really that good. But there's going to come a time, and I would argue it's probably sooner rather than later, that we're not going to have a period of time where the stock market is up double digits every 6 months for 5 years, because we've just had that. And you're going to be real happy sitting with 40% of your portfolio getting you most of a market return while we either go sideways or potentially down in the stock market. Because we're already seeing it. There's cracks in this AI thing that, sure, there could be another leg, something new is going to happen, it's going to accelerate another 100%, but like, how many trillions of dollars can one company make in NVIDIA? It's like they've gone from making billions of dollars to now trillions of dollars, but it's the difference, they say the first million is the hardest, but imagine trying to get a second trillion,
Yeah. Yeah.
It can't be that easy, especially when you've already got all of the biggest companies in the world spending more money than they've ever spent. And not only that, but having to borrow money and issue equity to spend it. Like that's a critical mass if I've ever heard one.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's been a long time. Tom, curious if at a dinner party, a happy hour, anything like that, anybody's ever come up to you and been pumped about the yield they locked in for 10 years. It's just not something people want to talk about.
Yeah.
But it can be quite responsible. And
they used to do that though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember all the times where people would say, well, I got a fixed annuity that's paying 3.5%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, back in 2008, because things blew out, people were offering annuities with 8%. That would have been an unbelievable buy back then. But you still would have underperformed the stock market. But in all those times where it was choppy, you were still printing 8%. And so that's something to think about, where it's like, you need a slow and steady part. And even the last day or two, we've had bonds roll off. Excellent opportunity to be opportunistic in the equity market, because now we're overweight fixed income because we've been trimming back to the asset allocation all along and adding more and more and more bonds as the stock market's gone up. Well, then stock market goes down. All right, now it's time to buy stocks.
Stay vigilant out there.
Got to.
In a story that I feel like only Ben can comment on, we've got Keiko Fujimori.
I have comments
on her fourth attempt in Peru to shatter the glass ceiling in Peru and become the first female president. She's done it.
Yeah, I think
Not the first Japanese president of Peru, though.
Yeah, I want to let Tom cook on this because apparently he cooked on it back in grade school when he did a Peruvian project.
Let's go.
But I think the big theme here is in South America, we're seeing the opposite of what's kind of going on in Europe, which is they don't really know which direction they're going. They're kind of torn between the far left and the far right. But in the South America, we've seen a decisive move to right and conservative and pro-business leadership. And we saw that in Argentina, obviously, where Javier Milei is really shaking things up. But now we've seen it we saw it earlier in Bolivia. We saw it in Chile with Jose Antonio Cast. And then we saw it just last week in Colombia. And now we're seeing it in Peru as well. I mean, this is all about law and order. It's about deportation of undocumented immigrants who have committed crimes. It's about no taxes on small business. It's very pro-business policies. And it's really everywhere in South America except for Brazil right now. And Brazil has elections later this year.
Yeah, so my history with the country of Peru is sometime in the late 90s, we had a project where every student was assigned a country and you had to kind of like do a project and tell everybody about that country. And I drew Peru, and I was absolutely shocked when I pulled up in Carta and learned that the president of the country of Peru at that time was named Alberto Fujimori, who is the father of Kiko. And it was one of those things that it stuck in my mind for the last 35 years is that like there's a huge Japanese population in Peru, and not only that, one of them was the president. Though it depends on who you ask, but Wikipedia would tell you he was a bad guy. But basically he was charged with a bunch of humanitarian and war crimes because he was trying to turn Peru into a first world country by stabilizing the economy, removing a lot of the communist predecessors' works of socializing everything in Peru, which, as we all probably would not consider it to be a, thriving economy. But he might have towed the line a little bit by potentially sterilizing and having death squads for the, their version of Antifa, basically just mowing them down in their beds to eliminate the communist regime in his country, which, sometimes things get a little messy when you're trying to operate in South America. But he was jailed and I think at one point banished and sent back to Japan. But,
now his legacy lives on.
Yeah, his daughter is the Peruvian. What's Donald Duck's wife's name? The female Donald Trump. I was going to use that.
Donald Duck.
Yeah,
I was
but I was thinking like whatever Donald Duck's wife's name, partner, a lot of people would say, she's probably got a name, and she could be the female Donald Duck Trump of Peru. That was where I was going, but I'm not kidding. Yeah, there is one, right? There's a Donald Duck has
presumably
an opposite gender counterpart.
It's not Daffy.
No, Daffy is
different set.
Yeah, he's something else.
So do a quick Goog on Donald's partner. We'll get into it later, but
Daisy. She's the Daisy Trump of Peru. There you go. This is the official status. They are considered boyfriend and girlfriend, not husband and wife, according to the Gemini.
You can't tie them down.
Yeah. So that's I would use the term partner because that's the politically correct way to do it.
You can't tie that
duck
down.
Yeah.
It's a duck dynasty is I think the takeaway here.
Mm-hmm.
FedEx. Weird report.
Yeah, weird report. They have weird. They spun off FedEx Freight, which is their LTL business, less than truckload business. They have a stub of a year right now because it's only like 5 months, and they got another 7 months to go.
Stubbing it together.
So like no one knows. Like all the analysts are just kind of mailing it. It's like we don't really know what the financials are, but we'll know more at the end of the year. So FedEx down a lot, but I wouldn't really read too much into that from a macro perspective. In fact, the macro commentary that they got was actually fairly positive, especially on the business-to-business B2B side. They did say that there has been a little bit of an inventory buildup and restocking going on, and which kind of speaks to one of my concerns about the pull forward of demand ahead of the World Cup. And then KB Home actually reported a very good report. They actually reiterated guidance despite a very weak March. They stabilized a little bit in April and May, and they're seeing some really good growth now in the Bay Area, which I think they didn't talk about it, but I would presume that's fairly strongly related to the massive wealth creation that's come from many of those companies over the past year or two.
KB, how do we feel about it? Did they offer anything on housing that would change your outlook?
It was more positive on the outlook than expected, although they would attribute that to their build-to-order program. So basically people can lock in their mortgage rates a lot easier, and the cancellation rate has come down. So versus building on spec, they're now building to order. So that's helping profitability. They did say the spring selling was softer than expected. I thought that overall the commentary on the macro was a little bit more, it was a little less downbeat than we've heard from some of the other home builders. And I think if mortgage rates do go down, I think that they're going to be poised to benefit.
Good stuff. Just for those out there wondering, Gemini says ducks don't get married, and they don't mate for life. So most ducks practice seasonal monogamy. They pair up for about 4 to 8 months during breeding season. There's a little bit of courtship. There's no joint parenting. Once the female lays her eggs and begins incubation, the male generally leaves. So it's Ducks Unlimited for a reason. They got things to do. Micron tonight. How we feeling?
It's gonna be big one way or the other.
It's gonna go one way or the other.
I mean, I'm sure they're gonna talk a good game. Question is how is the market going to treat it? I think that there's a lot of capacity being added. SK Hynix, by the way, we didn't talk about this, doing a $29 billion stock offering. They're getting relisted in the United States. Yeah, I mean, this is the biggest. This would be a top 5 historical IPO essentially, and no one's really talking about it because it's a fraction of what SpaceX was, but it's as big as Saudi Aramco in 2019, and that's a lot more capital that's coming to market, and they're going to use all that money just to build more capacity in memory chips. And I think that that's one of the biggest knocks on the memory chip space and why it's not sustainable is because you can just build more capacity. And I think SK Hynix and Samsung and Micron are all going to do that, which is going to lower prices for memory chips over time.
It's also going to lower their 80% margins.
Yes.
So,
Quite a bit. Yeah.
Which was what got people excited in the first place.
Yeah. All right. We'll wrap it up. Tomorrow is Tomorrow Day. Y'all have a great day. Talk to you soon.